Somebody mentioned earlier in the prior presentation about joint pain, and we're going to hear from Scott Sonnon about relieving joint pain and restoring joint mobility. Scott Sonnon has Ageless Mobility Pain-Free Wellness for Longevity, an easy-to-follow, low-impact movement program involving a scientific blend of dynamic mobility and simple yoga that gives you pain-free quality of life and the ability to move and play without pain. The focus is on prehab rather than rehab. And God knows we've got enough rehab out there in the world. We might as well have some more prehab. Scott, why don't you come on up here?
Can everybody hear me? Yeah? We still have a small group. Everyone's still digesting. But if you stick with me on this, not only will it help you with your digestion, but it'll give you more energy, especially those of you that have been seated for a while. Now, I brought a chair with me because there are some of you that will have difficulty standing for the duration of the movement that we're going to do. But if you stick with me on this, I'll give you alternatives that you can do while in your chair. Sure, just coming in. So, I get the chance to do this in quite a few different countries around the world. And in every country, there's one universally regretted loss over time. Now, unfortunately, it also happens at an accelerated rate for children with the manner that we're training in conventional fitness. But over time, the number one regrettable loss is freedom. As we don't move, we lose that ability to move that area. Not just in general, not just the ability to walk from one place to another, but locally. And how precious is the range of motion to reach overhead. And the inability to reach anything from above parallel. With each new range of motion that we lose, we literally becoming enslaved. Now, when I was a kid, I suffered a condition called osteochondrosis. And basically, in every joint of my body, the connective tissue didn't adhere. So there was a point in my life where I grew about 8 inches in several months. And it shredded all my connective tissue. Now that meant that I had severe coordination problems. I couldn't really do anything athletic. I wasn't able to move around like normal kids. I was the last one to be picked in dodgeball because I was the best target. And that caused me a great deal of problems. So I had to seek out alternative methods of being able to be mobile, to stay healthy. To even keep up with the other kids was really just a far-reaching dream for me. Over years of research, I mean, when you don't have any alternative, you try and find out what you can do. And it was over time that eventually I found my way to Russia. It's a long story how that happened. But I spent several years there, and in their space program, their cosmonaut program, they had a special way of... Do you know what happens to astronauts, cosmonauts in zero gravity? To their health? What do we not have in space that we have on Earth?
Gravity.
Gravity, right. And our bones depend upon it. Without gravity, without that tension, we literally start to fall apart. And the Russians, like the Americans, had developed their own way, because you can't lift weight when there is no weight, right? So you had to develop alternative methods. The Russians, the joke goes that, and NASA developed a pen that cost $1 million, and it could write in zero gravity. And the Russians brought a pencil. Okay, and this is the low tech stuff that I had the privilege of learning and bringing back to the United States, because when I followed these mobility exercises, and some of which I'm going to share with you, when I was able to follow these, it gave somebody with my genetic challenges, somebody in the shallow end of the gene pool, the ability to compete on an international level in multiple sports. So for me, it was a godsend. And I'm very passionate about this. I'm a true believer, because it gave somebody like me the ability to remain mobile, to do things that are athletic, to play with my kids now, to not live in a straitjacket of agony like I did when I was a kid. And that's why I travel around and share this, because even if you don't have severe conditions like I have, if you can restore function to one joint, whether it be a herniation in your neck, a disc herniation, lower back pain, you don't need to live with it. Shoulder bursitis, you don't need to live with it. Knee pain, hip pain, ankle pain, loss of range of motion, carpal tunnel syndrome, elbow tendonitis. All of these things, you don't need to live with them. There are very low-tech things that you can do that are non-surgical. And if you do them now, they're not going to progress into something where you'll lose that function permanently. For me, this is my retirement plan. And I want to be able to remain with all of my freedom for as long as possible. I may not be the strongest guy. I may not be the fastest guy. But I have all of my mobility. I can do anything that I want. I can still play with my kids. I can still compete at an international level. I'm getting up there. But I'm not in pain anymore. So, to remove that straitjacket of pain, there's certain things that we can do. Okay, now, basically what happens is, once you just as an example, take your elbow like you're hitchhiking. I'm from the West Coast, everybody does this. Take your thumb and then turn it out so it's facing the opposite direction, and as much as you can, extend it without locking out your elbow. You feel those little crunchies when you do that in your elbow? Some of you did, some of you didn't. So twist it as much as you can in a spiral, only under your own control. Okay, shake that out for a second. And then, if you didn't feel it in your elbow, try and circle your wrists around. Now, wait, not your fists. There's less muscles here. Imagine that you're holding on to handlebars of a motorcycle. And then rotate your wrists around. You feel the crunchies yet? Some more people do. Usually because we do this a lot, or we do this a lot, or we do this a lot. Okay, close your eyes for a second. Open your eyes for a second. If you have any type of neck issue right now, please go slowly on this, because if you have pins and needles, it's not necessarily helpful. So when you feel this, if you feel any pins and needles, just stop, and I'll help you with it. Something like spinal stenosis, where the cavity in the spine is starting to close, you don't necessarily want to do this, so this is just a test. So what I want you to do is close your eyes, and then slowly roll your neck around, as much as you can, without any pins and needles. Okay, and then open your eyes. Any more crunchies? Pretty much everyone. Because our head is about 1/7 of our body weight. So this is a lot of weightlifting to get our body underneath this big melon. And our neck, the smallest vertebra in our spine, has to carry all that load. So those crunchies, right, that little snap, crackle, and pop. Usually what this is they're little bubbles of gas. And as you move and open up that cavity, that gas comes out, and it creates a pop. Okay. Actively, it's not such a good thing, but passively, just going through the range of motion, if you don't do that, what happens is, if you take your knuckles and put your knuckles together so they fit like cogs on a wheel, look down at your knuckles. Okay? So if you don't move those joints and you squeeze them together, all of the fluid, look in between your knuckles, all the fluid that you need in there, all that cushioning, gets squeezed out. Okay. So what's the problem with that? Why would that be a problem?